Way back in July, Don and I were inspired to start this channel after the story came out that James Gunn was fired from Guardians of the Galaxy 3 for inappropriate tweets.
We spent hours discussing whether or not this was the right move, whether or not the forces behind unearthing his tweets were altruistic, and we were inspired to discuss and disseminate the truth from the information we could find, which eventually became this endeavour now to regurgitate the news in a digestible form.
Yesterday it turns out that Mr. Gunn has been rehired by Disney, resuming his work on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which in a roundabout way means we've done our job. All those talks and discussions, and we've finally gotten him his job back.
Yeah. Sadly, after hearing of the news, we checked the Stop the World email account to see if we've received any thanks from Mr. Gunn, and it turns out that he's just too busy to get back to us.
So we'd like to start a petition to fire James Gunn because he's an ungrateful piece of shit and we hate him.
Yeah, suck it, Gunn.
Yeah. Obviously, we can't do an episode this week without mentioning the tragedy in New Zealand. Stop the World primarily views events through the lens of humour and satire, but this is just something we don't want to tackle in that way.
Our hearts go out to everybody affected by this senseless act. We would cover this story, but we've just found the issue too emotionally draining to have a proper discussion about. So needless to say, we are appalled by the whole thing, and there just really isn't much more we can say on it.
We will say that f***ing moustache-twirling SS officer for the Australian government, Herr Fraser Anning, got exactly what he deserved after blaming the attack on the actual Muslims instead of, you know, the right-wing radicalism and the f***ing guns that actually killed them. This dumb, droopy-faced twat shit got f***ing egged by a 17-year-old f***ing legend, and I couldn't get harder watching the video. Play the clip.
That these sort of things happen when people are getting attacked in their own...
Play it again.
In their own...
Listen to that f***ing crack.
So now back to our regularly scheduled programming.
This week in blackface.
Yep, here we are again.
Blackface is becoming our bread and butter at this point. President Trump made a not-so-oblique reference to blackface upon another of his very important trips to Mar-a-Lago. In reference to the security agents working on site wearing night vision goggles, Trump said they looked to be in blackface and that they have to take them away because they were in blackface.
Yeah. Apparently the comment was in direct reference to Ralph Northam, the Virginia governor who had appeared in blackface in a high school photo. A story we actually covered on our very first episode, which means Mr. Trump probably definitely listens to our show.
Hello, Trump. We love your little toupee. While we're on the subject of Trump, actually, there's an app called 63 Red Safe designed to help conservatives in America find safe spaces where they can wear MAGA hats in public without facing ridicule. This app lists restaurants and shops that can be reviewed by conservatives from that perspective and say whether or not they're safe to go about wearing Trump 2020 gear.
A safe space?
Yeah.
For conservatives?
Yep.
So they don't have to face ridicule?
It makes me wonder why we don't have an app for black people to show where they can go without being shot by the police, or an app for women so they can avoid, like, everything. Like, men. I don't know. The point is, conservatives are the real snowflakes.
Still, there are deadlier things in the world. Oral sex, for example, has almost claimed the lives of two unlucky women this week. The first suffering a bloody stroke while receiving oral sex due to the sudden changes in blood pressure, so there's something to watch out for. The second was a bit more complicated, with the poor girl having some kind of allergic reaction to the penicillin that her boyfriend had just recently taken in what's been described as an oral drug transfer. I'm not going to explain that one for you. I think it's relatively self-explanatory.
Yeah. It's weird that that's happened twice in 1 week.
There's a conspiracy.
It's big dental, isn't it?
It's big dental, big oral.
Big oral. In Man vs. Nature news, bystanders were left shocked after witnessing a 64-year-old man grab and throw a seagull into a wall, killing it because it tried to steal his chips.
Funny.
It's so fucked up. The seagull was harassing the guy for a little bit before he took action, grabbing it by the leg and smashing it into the wall, for which he's been issued with a curfew.
He can't go out between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m, I think, something like that.
Wow. And being forced to pay about £800 for the whole thing.
Obviously, the RSPCA are appalled with the man's actions, condemning him for caring much more for a chip than for the life of an animal. And while I think this is perfectly fair, and that there are really very few good reasons to ever go killing an animal, it must be said that seagulls are absolute f***ing
They are
stupid fucking winged assholes. They don't care about fucking anything. I keep seeing seagulls eating fucking pigeons. Like picking them open and eating them.
Jesus Christ. I mean, I don't want to defend this guy's actions, but I don't think anyone can pretend that they wouldn't smash a seagull into the wall if it was pissing them off.
Seagulls need to fuck off. And not just them two. In other avian news, a flock, gaggle of hens, pecked to death a fox that managed to find its way into their enclosure. Apparently, there was about 3,000 hens in this coop, and the fox managed to find its way in through the automatically closing doors. They're free range, but they go back into the coop in the evening. And the hens just reacted, pecked the thing to death.
It's so nightmarish to imagine getting pecked to death by an army of what are essentially tiny dinosaurs.
Jurassic Peck. Feathered Kingdom.
Nice. Our last man versus nature story, a woman... I swear this happens every month. A woman found her way into the jaguar enclosure at the Wildlife World Zoo in Litchfield Park, bypassing the barriers and getting mauled, all to take a fucking selfie.
Didn't the last person who did this die?
Probably. She's fine. Got out with only a few scratches, I think, a few stitches. She later apologised for the whole incident instead of, say, suing the park, which is just the kind of moronic thing people would do these days. She said she was totally in the wrong, and the zoo are saying they're happy to welcome her and her family back one day.
Okay, story time. I went paintballing once with some friends, and after one of the rounds, on our way off the course, I removed my mask to rub my eye. One of the marshals saw me, and even though the round was over, I got told I had to sit the next round out because you don't take your mask off in, this situation. Someone could fire off a round and shoot you in the eye.
Yeah, sure.
So I got punished for doing something that could have cost me an eye if someone happened to fire off a round. It didn't happen, but it could have. I put myself in a silly situation. You just don't take the mask off, right?
Yeah.
This woman, though, climbs over the wall and up to the fence with live animals right there, who then attack her because of course they f***ing do, resulting in stitches and drama and all that. And she gets told that she's welcome back any time. I'm not saying she needs a proper punishment, but somebody who does something that stupid, you make sure they don't get the opportunity to do it again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's what the Darwin Awards are for, though. The jaguar is fine, by the way. She's not being put down or anything, but the woman is saying that since the jaguar attacked someone last year, that someone should improve security by moving the wall barrier back further from the fence or making it higher.
So, I'm sorry, hold on. So you're saying... Leanne, you're saying you need a bigger, badder wall because you literally cannot make the conscious decision to not act like a brainlet. You need someone to stop. Oh, I learned my lesson. Well, evidently fucking not if you need someone to stop doing this dumb shit again.
I think she means like a little kid could jump that wall. It's like 3 foot high.
Look after your fucking kids then. If the wall were any further away, these entitled assholes would be all like, oh, I can't see the animals. It's too far away. Boo-hoo, I didn't pay for this. It's a wild fucking animal. Don't fuck with it. It's not there for your amusement, however much you paid. Fucking hell.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, these morons.
In Has Science Gone Too Far news, robot rolls into hospital ward and tells 97-year-old man he is dying. This is so dystopian. A man was admitted to hospital in San Francisco last week with a chronic lung disease. Doctors did some tests and all that. One night he's lying there with some family around him, struggling to breathe because, lung disease.
Yeah. And
this robot rolls in and tells him they can't do anything because his lungs rotted off and he's got to be on morphine until he dies.
What?
It's not like it's a doctor on a robot screen. But, it's
Is it Johnny f***ing Five rolling in and going, Johnny Five is alive, but you're not. I can breathe.
You can't. It's so weird though. The daughter has this quote where she's kind of like, you shouldn't have to find out news like this in this way.
She says, if it was normal news, then fine, but you don't roll the robot in to say, I'm sorry, but there's no lung to actually operate on.
She had to this doctor robot thing is trying to tell this guy who's like partially deaf.
He's deaf in one ear. And the robot,
basically saying you're gonna die, and
the guy in bed's like, huh?
I can't
because
hear
he can't hear, and the robot, because it's a f***ing robot, cannot go around the other side of the bed to talk into his good ear. So his daughter has to fucking.
It's so weird. Johnny Five just gave this guy a death sentence. It's not right. And that's not even the weirdest science story this week. We also had a kid who injected himself with radioactive Bible verses in order to mutate into Jesus Christ. Not really, but he did inject himself with Bible verses.
So apparently he used, of all things, E. coli and some other virus as a vector, because you can't literally inject yourself with Bible. I mean, I suppose you could. Some idiot will try. Sequenced some DNA using passages from both the Bible and the Quran and injected them into his legs as a symbol of peace between science and religion. Is this story?
I mean, first of all, buy E. coli on the internet. Apparently, it's quite easy to do. And secondly, like mixing the Bible with like a serious disease doesn't seem to be the best way to send a message.
There's another symbol in there. I don't think he thought about.
No, atheists are having a field day with this one.
Oh yeah.
The best part is that this kid actually wrote a paper. And obviously, an academic paper, you have to cite your sources.
Yep.
And when you upload your paper to Google Scholar with citations, anyone who has been cited that's actively using it will be pinged, notifying them that they have been cited. Which leads us to Sri Kasuri, a geneticist who was quoted in this kid's essay. Sri Kasuri actually pioneered transferring data onto DNA, but he believes what this kid has done is actually extremely dangerous and that there are many risks. To which the kid replied, you, basically.
Do what I want.
Yeah.
Not my dad.
He's a teen. He's an angry teen with weirdly specific access to E. coli and apparently genetic engineering technology. Is it easy enough to do in your bedroom? That's definitely not what I did in my bedroom.
No.
Okay, Siri Kasuri summed it up best when he said, 2018 can't end soon enough.
Yeah, he's obviously not too proud of how his work's being used.
No, definitely not.
It is. I mean, it's not that it's bad. It's just weird.
A very weird application.
Yeah,
This
doesn't really help anyone.
There is no progress being made with this story. We need to get him on the show, though.
Yeah, he gets how the world is.
Yeah, a bit like that old what do you call it, Brexit.
Oh please, no.
I don't want to get political.
So loud.
I'm sorry. You're mine now. Let's talk about Brexit.
Okay, all right. Well, if we're going to talk about Brexit, can we dumb this down for me because I don't follow the story. I just want it like nice, simple, easy terms.
Okay. So as you know, Britain is negotiating a withdrawal from the EU.
Okay, no. Dumber than that.
Okay. Imagine a student who doesn't want any help with finishing his very important end-of-year assignment, which will send him off, he believes, to better things.
Right.
It's super important that he gets it right. So he keeps going away and working on it and coming back, and the teacher, bless her, is being patient and understanding and just waiting on him to turn in a good paper. Mm-hmm. And the kid is really trying. Like, he's coming back every week with a new paper, and it just keeps getting turned away. Because, you see, this child is Ralph Wiggum, and he's a moron.
Okay. So what's going on with Brexit this week?
Well, Philistine, Theresa May has had to ask teacher for more time on that paper because her classmates have said that her paper isn't good enough. But it would be better than not giving in a paper at all. Is this making sense?
Yeah. I mean, as long as you keep using the Ralph Wiggum metaphor, I think I'll be okay.
Okay, yeah. So Ralph Wiggum has had to ask the EU for more time on her paper, but we don't know how much time Mrs. Crabapple will give him. And I mean, given his track record, how long do you think Ralph Wiggum needs to turn in a decent paper that his whole class is going to love? From the bullies, that's like the racists, to the lefties, to the DUP, to basically all the happy people of the British public whose lives are going to be affected by Ralph Wiggum's paper. Okay. I like this metaphor, that we are the Ralph Wiggum of countries. Yeah, we are the country that gets safety scissors, for sure.
So let's leave this week on this ongoing story. We'll come back to Ralph Wiggum next week. I'm sure he'll have something new to show.
Absolutely.
To share.
To share with the class. I think that's all for this week in our terrible news cycle. Remember to like, comment and subscribe, and we'll just leave you with this.
No one told you life was gonna be this way.